I'm going to be doing a haircut for you taking something short. I really believe that short hair is the new long, but not everyone wants their hair short. So when you're watching this haircut, I want you to think about how you can just adjust the length, simple, and do it even on someone long. Please welcome my model, Cassandra. And with Cassandra's hair, we've gone through and it's the length that she came in with. And the idea is, once again, we're going to take and do something short. So let's talk about what we're doing. The old is new again. What was once popular is becoming new. It's working its way back. I want you to think about that in fashion. It's just one vicious cycle. But when something comes back, it comes back with a little bit more modernness and freshness. Let's talk about how we're going to section this. We've been working with horseshoe sections for a long period of time. And then there was a point where we introduced umbrellas to you. Now we're moving away from those horseshoe sections and umbrellas, and we're getting into these rectangle shapes. They're very narrow at the top, and they're actually above the round of the head. How do we establish these rectangle shapes? You're going to use the eyeball as your point of reference, just simply placing your comb there. I want you to stand behind the client. Now just rock your comb back. You're going to see now a vertical line. Take a snapshot of that. See that vertical line now, just draw right back into that. When you do that, this is a simple way of achieving a curved horizontal line. So rather than going on the profile and drawing and sketching this out, you can see I just gave you a real simple way in terms of how do we get that rectangle shape. Now what's interesting about this is look how high this is, above the round of the head. When we work with horseshoes, we're usually at the round or below the round. So why are we going so high this season? The reason we're going so high is because we discovered by taking these rectangle sections so high, this hair is going to have the ability to move left and it'll have the ability to move right. When you do a horseshoe section, you're limited in terms of it moving one direction. So think about how this can have a sense of floppiness to it from one side to the other. So it's almost like you're exposing a hidden secret underneath. Now, what I'm going to do is take it to the back. How far down do we go in the back of the head? We're simply going to take our comb, place it vertical right on the occipital. Place your finger there. That's where the horizontal line is going to be drawn. So the idea is this, is watch where the horizontal line, it's here. Now look how high this is. So we're taking these underlayers, these undercuts, the highest they've ever been taken any season. Remember, my friends, the reason Victoria Beckham's haircut worked in that crown area is because that crown area was detached. The underneath was cut very high and detached crown area from the underneath. That gave the ability for it to get very frothy in the crown area. So it's really interesting how we're progressing in terms of what we're doing on the top of the head to create a new sense of freshness. Once I've got this section, now I simply want you to come through and we're going to isolate the section. Okay, now I'm working with a white comb on dark hair so that I get the contrast of the extension of the lines that I'm cutting. So that's why I'm working with a white comb. If Cassandra's hair was blonde, we'd be working with a black comb. Now, here's what we're going to do. This season, everything is starting to move back away from the face. So I want you to separate front to back. So remember, think about it. We always have a natural common tendency to start our haircuts in the back. This season, what we're going to encourage you to do is start to take these haircuts and stand in the front and work from the front to the back. This is going to give you the hair the ability to move back and away from the face. And that's what's going. If there's anything that's going on strong, you're going to start to see the movement of it moving back and away from the face. Reason being, a lot of frustration. It's a different world being a hairdresser. You know, my friends, that clients want in and they want out. So we've discovered ways that we can take that require less time in terms of setting up and getting to the end result. Standing in the front, working to the back. So now watch what we're going to do. All of this is going to be an underlayer. So I want this really nice and tight. But we're working a lot with control. There's a lot of discipline and control going on. For a long period of time, we've been going in there and compressing large sections. Watch what I'm going to do this season. I'm going to take this around, give you a back view, 3/4 view of this. And now watch what I'm going to do. All I'm simply going to do is just come in and I'm going to take a diagonal back section. So I simply take that diagonally back. I'm going to take this piece here that just wants to kind of send a little floppiness. I'm going to leave that and just isolate that out on its own and take that away up into that rectangle. Now I'm going to start here in the front. I want you to just simply read the hair. Watch, I'm just simply going to push and just start to see where does that hair bend. So I want to create more of an underlayer rather than an undercut. The difference being undercut would be scissor over comb. Here I want to work with that bend. So I'm going to take it down to probably about a 1/2 inch. And now now look at how I'm working diagonally. My elevation is going to be horizontal, and I want to take that back and away from the face. Next diagonal section. Now let's talk about the mechanics. Watch the mechanics. Working with the fine teeth of the comb because we're graduating the hair. We're going to slice and pick up on top, then come underneath. My last combing angle is always underneath, rather than our last combing angle being on top. When our last combing angle is on top, we drop that degree of elevation. Now watch the mechanics. So I pick on top, now I come underneath, and I'm here, and I fold, and I slide up till I get to my line of graduation. So by combing underneath, it's enabling you to establish your degree of elevation. If I don't do that, and I go basically on top, you're going to have a natural common tendency to drop the degree of elevation. So I come through, and pick on top, clean, under last combing angle underneath, fold, and slide up. So you see when I slide up, it gets me to the proper elevation and to the proper over direction point. Each section I'm cutting, the section is over directed to the previous section. So I'm not cutting it necessarily contour to the head. And now don't worry guys in terms of what you see. Start to really understand that water plays tricks with your eyes. So I want to just continue with my method and not start to read things and start to get frustrated in terms of seeing things that maybe frustrate you. Stay mechanical. Stay really disciplined. Underneath, fold, and slide up. Now let's talk about what are things happening. When I talk about how things are coming back, what was once old is new again. I want you to think about it. Drive-in theaters are starting to open up. And when we see these drive-in theaters, you've got a generation of kids out there that have never been to a drive-in. And with the technology being what it is today, they've got this whole idea of high definition, great sound in terms of what they do. I remember when I went to a drive-in, I had a little tin speaker, and that went on the window. Matter of fact, I was the guy they put in the trunk and took to the drive-in. But the idea is this. What are we doing in terms of that? Well, we've been talking about how there's big braid parade going on. The idea, once again, the old becoming new. Dorothy Hamill, the whole idea of a wedge. Look at the way that I'm cutting this. The whole idea of getting back into precision. So Sam, are there times when you will continue to compress? Oh yeah, you bet there's going to be times when I'm going to compress. But when I'm going through and creating these underlayers, I want it, because things are moving back, you want things to move back with some sense of control to it, instead of it being real bumpy. When you take those large sections, you get texture that has a degree of softness to it. This, I want a little bit more fluidity as it moves back and away. Will it have the ability to move forward? Sure it will. Because the degree of shortness, we can take it up, back. You can do two different things with it if you want. Remember, it's all about getting back into it and getting the conversation started with our clients. How do we do that? It's about changing the verbiage. So how about if I said to this to a client, instead of saying versatile, your haircut is versatile, how about if we said your haircut has double identity? That's right, double identity. And the client, I'm sure, is going to say, well, what do you mean by double identity, Sam? What I mean by double identity is that it can do two different things, not just one thing. So when you start to use different language, you get the conversation going again. Imagine this. Let's tilt your haircut versus let's cut your haircut asymmetrical. Okay? When you go in there and you say, let's tilt your haircut, it's amazing what you're going to get. They're going to go, well, what do you mean by tilt? Watch over the ear. Look how I'm taking the shear. I'm now moving to where my thumb can go in, right there. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold it horizontal and come in this way. The reason being is I just want to clean this hair up over the ear, but not hold it in my finger. When I hold it there, we're going to take it too short. I'm going to come through, capture it inside the teeth of the comb, and now just tap, tap, tap. And look how the hair is captured with the teeth. So it's a really good idea to go in there and use that because it helps you to keep it clean over the ear. And now you can just see how I expose that and open it out. I've cut the front side area, now I'm going to move it into the back area. I'm going to stay vertical. Now I went from a diagonal to a vertical. I'm still going to over direct to each previous section. Look how I'm going to bring my elbow down. Rather than my elbow coming up like this, look how I'm just going to take and drop my elbow and my comb is going to be here. Remember, my friends, I want you to remember, please take good care of yourselves ergonomically in terms of your body position. So do not put yourself in uncomfortable positions. I want you to put the client in uncomfortable positions before you put yourself in an uncomfortable position. And the reason being is because your client comes there once every 4-8 weeks. You're standing there every day. Kids at school, you remember that, my friends. Take control of your arena. Now look how I'm just combing that, and I fold, and I continue to look and see where my guideline's back, working to the back now. Here's the idea. She has an existing fringe already that's short. I'm going to work with that, but she's got a lot of length that sits behind that, that's going to sit over this. So the idea is I want that rectangle. The degree of shortness is it's already an existing haircut in the front, but I want to create something that has a little bit more kind of Anne Hathaway, a little bit of Charlize Theron to it. Charlize Theron to me is a new Twiggy. And if you don't know who Twiggy is, for my young ones out there, Google Twiggy. You need to know who Twiggy is. But I really believe that Charlize Theron is the new Twiggy. You take an Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway, short to long. So you're starting to see these things that are moving back. Why? Look at the skirts you're wearing. You girls are wearing skirts that are called high low-rise skirt. Okay? It's shorter in the front and longer towards the back. That is what I call a mullet skirt. So think about that. But okay, let's call it a moulet then. But things are shorter in the back. So here's what I want to do. Look at what's happening. I've got my degree of shortness here in the front, but as I move to the back, I'm going to have some degree of length. So it's not necessarily about wiping things out so much underneath like we used to. Okay? You can go in and do these undercuts and underlayers and make them really, really nice in terms of the ability for the personality, matching up the personality. What I always want you to remember is read the personality and adapt the haircut to fit the personality. Allow the personality to tell you how far you can push a haircut. Now look at how I keep my hand there. I'm in my elevated position. Now I come through and I comb. Okay? Once you're there and you've established your elevation, your over direction, and your finger angle, those three movements that we utilize when we cut. If you're here, why drop it and reestablish it? You can see the extension of the line. Let's continue to follow that. See, I just readjust, and once again, my last combing angle is on the right side of the section. Look how I fold. Sam is never trying to look through and see my guideline. I want you to get in the habit of really folding it and looking at where your guideline is. Now look how I'm establishing that length more towards the back, and I'm getting a little bit more length towards the back. This is what I mean by creating something that's a little bit more soft moulet. And especially this, you're going to start to see a lot more clients are going to take their hair short. Why? Because as I said in the beginning of the program, we really believe that short hair is the new long, but it's not meant for everybody. So think about that. You know, you have to really discover the personality. Let's go back to a couple other things. What if we go through and we say, let's get rid of the word disconnection and let's start to use the word detach. I think disconnection puts a lot of fear in the consumers. That's only because a consumer only knows what they know. It's our professional responsibility to tell them what's happening before it's happening. Okay? The consumer only knows what they know. Sam, I have a problem really disconnecting my clients. Well, the reason that you're having a problem is maybe the way that you're communicating it. What I want you to understand is this. What we've discovered through detaching our haircuts is we're able to take hair away where a client doesn't really need it. So what we mean by that is this. Is when you're going through and you're talking about detached or disconnection, as I said, get rid of that word and start saying detach. Think about it being a one-length bob. And think about how they're blow-drying hair that has length underneath in the nape area, one length. It's hair that they can't see and they can't get to. So how about if you just go in and you put like an underlayer underneath that, and then you just layer a one-length bob, you just put a one-length bob that sits on top of that. Now what you've done is you made their blow dry very, very simple to work with because you've taken hair away that they don't need. Okay, let's come back behind the ear. Now I'm going to go back right behind the ear, fold. Look where I'm holding the shear. Look where the thumb went. Now look how the hair is captured, and look how I fold the ear and I just tap, 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 tap. And what it does is it allows me to get a really nice soft edge that sits over that ear. Okay, continue to work all the way to the center back. So I'm going to take a vertical section and continue to work right to my center back. Looking at my section, stay in control and stay consistent. It's so important. When you lose consistency, now we're spending more time going back and re-correcting things. Once I get this in, then I'm going to come back over with a blending shear. I'm just going to soften edges that I see I need to soften. So that's really, really important, guys. Really go through and watch how I'll cut this and I'll blow dry this underneath before I move into the top. And I'll blow dry the top and cut the top dry. You see, cutting hair dry is a visual exercise. It allows you to see the cutting edge. When we cut something wet, water takes over. So I love when I'm cutting more like with discipline like this and cutting my things much more precision. Then I will go in and use and work with water. When I'm cutting things a little bit more for texture, I'm going to recommend you work with dry cutting. And remember, it's a visual exercise, so you can actually see what that hair is doing. Next, I'm continuing my vertical sections. All I did there, guys, is just take off that excess length rather than trying to work through it with my comb and beginning to tangle up. Okay, working through my vertical sections. Remember, we're working with the fine teeth of the comb, coming through, always folding and looking for a guide. Now, undercutting. Sam, would you do something like this, undercutting on wavy hair or curly hair? You've got to be careful, my friends, in terms of wavy hair, in terms of curly hair. Remember, different types of texture of hair. I certainly would not recommend really going in and aggressively detaching hair that is spiral type of curl. All you're doing is creating more expansion. I'm going to recommend you check out Curlicious, a DVD that we've made for you that's all about the do's and don'ts of natural curly hair. Look how I'm folding. Look at my elbow, how my elbow is down. The position of my comb was held from the top vertically. Enables you to get to a section much easier. Once again, working with the fine teeth of the comb. Fine teeth of the comb compress the hair. So when I want to when I go in and graduate and want to create soft edge, just going to recommend we work with the fine teeth of the comb. We'll work with the wide teeth of the comb when I'm working with hair that has a little bit more a coarseness to it, or I'm cutting something one length. Now let's just start to look at this. Okay, look at the natural texture and the natural movement in this. I'll see that, guys. Stay nice and precise. Then I'm going to come back and I'll soften out weight and soften lines where I need to soften out weight and lines with the blending shear. Look how I'm thinking inside out. So I'm layering. I haven't thought about my nape area or anything that's happening here. Usually what we'll do is we'll create our perimeter edge, then go in and layer. What we're going to recommend we do is let's layer things out and then go in and adjust perimeter layers. The only place that I've adjusted a perimeter is right here in the ear area, just simply getting this so I get a nice visual in terms of the idea in terms of how that front's working out. Now we're going to go to the opposite side. Once I reach center, now we come to the opposite side. Now here's the trick. How do I go in and create a guideline from this side to the opposite side? Very simple. I'm going to take a diagonal forward section. I'm going to lift this section up. Now I want you to use your middle finger and your ring finger. You're going to separate middle and ring. So now all I do is take the comb, slide it in between, right in between that. Slide out to your guide. Now I slide my thumb and index finger to that. Now that's my length for the opposite side. So when a client sees you do this, it sets up that trust and that confidence. Rather than me picking one piece of hair from one side, the other side, and doing the measurement game like this. You're going to get a much more precision and visual character to the client in terms of what you're doing and why you're doing it. I just come through, I take my slice, same slice, give you a view of this. Okay, I haven't moved. Okay, now just simply pick the section up, comb it, just get it in your hand. Okay, separate your middle and your ring, and now I slide right up to it. As soon as my middle finger hits that, trust it, guys, and just cut the darn thing. I think we tend to over-evaluate things. Once you're there, I want you to just pick it up and cust it. And pick it up and don't swear at it, cut it. All right, here we go. Diagonal, back. Remember the side area. Look how I have the side area separated from my back area. Why? I'm working this diagonal till I get to that vertical line, then I will shift to a diagonal line. Why? Diagonal lines, I'll shift to a vertical line, moving from diagonal to vertical and vertical in the back. Why? I want the frontness to have a little bit more roundness to it in terms of its ability to move. I want the back to have more degree of flatness to it. So understanding lines and the characteristics of lines, horizontal, vertical, and diagonal, what they do is very, very critical. Okay? Coming back through. Now, Sam, could I have gone through with the blending shear and cut all this with a blending shear? Sure you could. You could do that. It's not a problem, guys. You decide what it is that you want to do. Remember, I'm going in and doing it here because I'm leaving it a little bit longer. So because I'm leaving it a little bit longer, I'm going to establish my length, come back and soften the edge with my blending shear. So because I'm leaving it a little bit longer, you're going to start to see that movement. When I go through and cut with a little bit more precision, you're going to get a better flow out of it. Okay, simply continuing through, maintain consistency. Elevation, over direction, and finger angle. Those are your 3 movements in terms of what we use when we cut the hair. So they happen consistency. So look, they all happen simultaneously. Look how I pick up with the fine teeth, then I come up underneath, and I'm establishing my elevation and my over direction. So they happen consistently in terms of establishing those 3 movements. Okay, now getting that section, getting it right back. Not going to approach the ear yet, going to move right into it now, into the back behind the ear, and now shifting to vertical. Look how I'm placing my clip in, stay in control. Some people do not section, just take the slice, move the hair out of the way. I want you to really see these lines in terms of how you're working with them. Look, I fold, and I move right to that, just slide up to it. I found that is personally the best way for me to keep something really, really nice and clean and consistent. Okay, and let's talk about a little bit about long hair. Okay, I think we're beginning to see a little bit more angles in terms of the front. The strongest angle we're cutting now is this angle here. And imagine, the further I keep it away from the hairline, the length, then I've got this kind of feeling of Farrah Fawcett. The closer I move this angle to the hairline, now I've got a really soft moulé to it. So the idea is everything is diagonal. Notice why I'm starting in the front. I want it to move back. When you think about this, Sam, could I apply this little rectangle to long hair? Sure, I could. How about if I go through and I just layer this out underneath, pulling everything up to the corner of the eye, so I get this more or less to move back. Now take the rectangle and move the rectangle over that. Remember, the reason for that rectangle, as you'll see me get into it, is so it has a degree of softness where it moves left, right, left. That's why we're going with rectangles versus horseshoes. All right, coming right through underneath. And in the nape area, maintaining, look at the visual of the comb, how it allows me to stay nice and vertical. I come back through, and I fold and follow that. Okay, not working into the hairline. If I pick it up, I pick it up. If I don't, I don't. Okay, simply looking at the texture as I'm working through, looking at any natural movement that I see, and how I'm going to come back through and soften that natural texture. I really believe that things are moving back into a little bit more discipline. Are we compressing? As I said earlier, yes, we're still continuing to compress. Let's talk a little bit about in terms of trend and inspiration. Right now, a lot of the inspiration is coming from fashion. We talked about the skirts, high, low rise, how they're tilted back, how that's affecting how hair is tilting back. You girls have been wearing skirts that are peplum skirts. That peplum is detached fabric maybe from a skirt. It's a whole concept in terms of this. So my peplum might be this whole idea of the top area, the crown areas being detached. Maybe those might be your peplum areas. Also, I want you to start to think of where Andrew and I really believe the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to start doing these overcuts. Overcuts are where we're actually taking the top shorter and leaving the length down below. So we're actually going through and just tipping an undercut, tip it over, or an underlayer, just tip it over. And think of it being shorter on the top and then longer underneath. We really feel that's going to be a next natural progression in things that we see and what we see. Now I come through, I just simply fold and slide and come through. Now working right down to the nape, notice how I move the head, guys, so that you can get to what it is that you need to see. All right, coming right through. So there's a revolutionary spirit going on out there. You have these kids that are inspiring us on these terms of these crowns and what they're doing with their crown areas. And what they're doing with their crown areas, these kids are coming out of college. Okay, think about it, my friends. They can't get a job. They have student loans. They're in debt with student loans. They're getting a job as a waiter, as a waitress. And then what they're doing is they're working on paying back the student loan. They're not getting their hair cut, but they're cutting it their own. And then what they're doing is they're cutting up into the crown area. So you're going to start to see crowns start to pop a little bit more. There's a rock revolt that's going on. Think about it. Everybody's been talking about the 80s. Everybody's now talking about Gatsby, about the 40s. Things are going to get a little bit more tailored in your updos, in your upstyles. We're still going to see a little bit more undone, but it's going to be a quality undone. It has discipline to it. The idea is this, is you're seeing this combination of kind of 80s and 40s combined together. Think about it. People have been listening to a lot of the 80s music. These kids think it's new music. If they only knew that's what we listen to. But it's all remixed. So things are just remixed to give you a different kind of feeling in terms of what's going on. It's the same idea, guys, here. This would, to me, would be almost like a Dorothy Hamill wedge, but I would stay on the diagonal and be elevating low instead of going in and cutting it diagonal to vertical. So think about that. It's the same idea, but the whole idea of the top is sectioned out higher in terms of that, what that rectangle does. Okay, coming through, and I'm continuing to work with the fine teeth of the comb, working my way to the center back. So we're talking about a revolutionary spirit in terms of where the youth is going and what they're doing. I think you're going to start to see a little bit more rock and roll flavor come back, but with a little bit of the idea of things being a little bit more coiffed at the same time. So think about haunted kind of looks working in with romance. The two kind of combine themselves together. So it's interesting in terms of where the direction hair goes and where we see it going. But we get a lot of our influence from fashion and from music in terms of what we're looking at. All right? 60% of the people in today's world are buying things based on value. 40% of the people in today's world are buying things based on price. Here's what I want you to remember now. When you have your client sitting there, and you know that this client is going to walk to your front desk, and she's going to extend her appointment, let's say it's her color. She's going to extend it a week or two. I'm going to ask you, why do you think she's extending the appointment? What she wants to do is she is trying to save money. That's what she's trying to do. So what I want you to understand is what we've discovered by detaching haircuts, we've discovered that it has longevity. So that's what I want you to tell your clients is, I'm going to give you a haircut that has longevity. I'm going to help you save money. So rather than seeing you every 4, every 6 weeks, I'd like to see you every 6, 8 weeks. You see, when you do that, my friends, it's a different world being a hairdresser. It's a different world. Can you imagine the pitter-patter of that heart that client's going to have when you say that to them? They're now going to walk out of the salon and they're going to talk about you in today's world. It's not like it used to be, my friends, where they would line up for us and they were booking every 6 weeks, every 4 weeks. Oh yeah, you still have those few clients that do that. But the idea is in today's world, it's a different world being a hairdresser. The way we stand behind the chair, the way we communicate behind the chair. We at Sanvia are going to encourage that you start to do that. Ask yourself, what's the value you're adding behind the chair? I'm not talking about added services. What I'm talking about is this. When that color is placed on, that client that you have, that you know has 3 children that are 9, 10, and 11, when that color is on, I want you to go back to the break room and I want you to grab your long hair mannequin, bring your mannequin stand out, put it by that client while her color is processing. I want you to teach her how to do a few braids. There's a braid parade going out there. And these kids are going to school with their hair braided. Can you imagine if you taught your mom 3 simple braids, an S braid for example, you taught her how to do that? That's adding value to the appointment time. No, you're not charging for it. Added services, it's not an added service, it's a value. It's something where you know you have the time. Why not share that with the client while their hair color is processing, guys? It goes out there, creates a sense of enthusiasm. Get those mannequins out, get them on the salon floor, start braiding hair, and I guarantee you, people in the salon, clients that are sitting there are gonna go, what's Andrew doing over there? Oh, that's Andrew teaching his client how to braid because she's got 3 kids. Well, I have 3 kids, can you teach me how to braid? It's the same idea, guys, same principle. Now look at see how this all comes out at me, guys? Don't concern yourself with that. This is where you have to have the strength and the belief to see this all happening. Now watch how I'll adjust all of this with my blending shear. I got my base in there in terms of my length where I want it, but you need to adjust accordingly. Okay, don't get stuck to one particular thing or idea and then things start to happen in your haircut. You've got to understand to read natural movement, to read what it is that you see in terms of growth patterns. Okay, so now what am I doing? I'm just going back through, just cross-checking. Remember, I'm cross-checking this particular one because of the way that I've cut it. Now I'm going to come back in with a blender and just start to readjust what it is that I see I need to readjust. Let's go to this side. And let's just carve out over the ear now. Once again, take the shear, just drop it. Bring your thumb right in, and now come through, fold, and now just tap, tap, tap. And now just rotate the shear right over the ear so you get this whole feeling doing this. And now, look at how I'm just carving out behind the ear and just getting that hair out behind the ear. When I come through, guys, it's so important you understand that you get this and you're here. Now I want you to just tap, and you won't cut the ear because you're rotating over the ear with the hair inside of the comb. It's captured inside of the comb. Rather than me folding the ear and then carving it out, now I'm chasing the hair because the hair moves away from me. Rather than holding it in your hand, watch. If I hold this in my hand, guys, look how much hair I'm going to take off. That's too much. All I want to do is just carve out. Okay, if you're seeing some red on my hand, guys, you know what? It's the nature of the industry. Sometimes you cut yourself. I'm okay, don't worry about it. But see, the nature of the industry, sometimes we cut yourself. That's just kind of one of the things that goes with it. It's not a problem. Focus on the haircut. All right, now we're going to go through. Now I'm going to start to pick up my blenders. I'm going to start to adjust back here. I want to take that up. By taking that up, it's going to modernize it, all right? If I leave this too long, I think it just extends too much, and number one, it has a little bit more of a dated kind of retro feel to it. We'll take that up. Let's reach now to a blending shear. The blending shear, guys, is a great shear to use. Once again, understanding the limits and capabilities of your tools is really important. Just as a fashion designer understands the limits and capabilities of silk, of wool, we too must understand the limits and capabilities of our tools. I'm going to come through with a blender, and now I'm going to work with that scissor over comb, and I'm just going to start to soften my edges. Remember, it's the speed that you want. Fast scissor, slow comb. Great comment from Andrew in terms of that. One thing I picked up from Andrew when we're working with that is how he talks about fast scissor and a slow, steady comb. So that you're able to go through and create that soft edges. Now watch the control I'm going to start to get out of this side. Okay, and we'll compare the control we get here. So you got to see where it is that you want to go to and the edges that you want to soft. Okay, shear is fast. Okay, comb is slow. And all I'm doing is just taking all those areas where I saw that hair coming out and just taking off the length. So Sam, are you actually taking it shorter? I would say I'm taking it a little bit shorter, but what I'm looking for now is the control in terms of what I'm working with. Okay, coming into the front, still coming in, bringing the comb in diagonally. So I've got to bring that in diagonally, guys. That's how I cut that. Watch how the comb, when I get to the back, it will shift a little bit more on the vertical, but I keep it a little bit diagonal so that I can lift the hair. See this little spot right there? See how that kicks out? So sometimes what you need to do is look at the control I've got here now, how you're getting that control here, as compared to what I have on this side. Okay, let's go after the center here. Gonna go after the center, once again, elevating, slow comb, fast scissor, really softening those edges where I see it really bulky and kicky where it kicks out at me, and just going in and taking out the bulk where I need to take out the bulk. Sometimes it's just about ideas in terms of if you see something that's working, sometimes you need just to cut it out with intent and with purpose. All right, so now you can just start to see the control that I've got on that side, and now just continue to read where I need to take out the weight. So I'm still thinking inside, outside, still thinking that in terms of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Now let's go back to the front. Okay, once I get this, now I'm going to come through, I'll pause for a moment and I'll pick up a blow dryer. And I'll pick up the blow dryer so that I can go in and just start to blow dry the underneath, blow dry the top. I want you to start to think about giving the client a different experience. Rather than being that little machine that we sometimes can tend to be behind the chair, start to think about how you can go in and you give them a different experience. The average client stays at a salon every 6 years, for 6 years, and then they move on. That's a national stat, guys. Oh yeah, you have your clients, some of those clients that have been with you for 10, 15 years, but you also have these clients that love, they just move around. It's not that they don't like you, it's just that they're looking for a different experience. So that's what I mean about blow drying as you go. So rather than cutting everything all wet, then picking up the blow dryer, then blow dry it, then coming back and tweaking your haircut, how about picking up the blow dryer when you cut these underlayers, blow dry, now blow dry the top dry so you have control of it in terms of the way you're going to be working with it. Just checking things out, looking how things look, taking away what I need to take away. And once again, fast scissor, slow comb. Okay, love that whole concept. That comes from Andrew, and I'm sure Andrew will talk to you a little bit more about it. All right, now we're going to go through. Now I'm going to clean up my nape area and just looking at the nape area and seeing where do I want to take that nape area. I know, look at, when you do this, start to just mold things, okay, and just take that. See how that can look when I take it off? Watch how it extends too much for her when I leave that there. So the idea, guys, is this. Communication builds wealth. What I want you to do is I want you to start to communicate things in a way where you get the client to understand the why why behind where you want to do things. One of the things I was used to hear was, oh, this is going to look so good on you, it's going to look so sexy. You know, let's go in and let's start to move on. Let's start to move on in terms of the idea of telling them why you want to do what you want to do. That's so, so important, guys. Give them the why behind that. So use the face as a means of getting it why. As a matter of fact, let's say, for example, you have a client that you have an elongated center. Okay, listen, it's not that I said you have a long nose. I said you're elongated in the center. So let's move your center part off to the side. By moving it off to the side, now people start to look at you in a diagonal fashion. When you start to communicate that way, guys, it's interesting in terms of clients and what they start to do. You're like, you know what? You seem to know what you're talking about. Why don't you go ahead and just do whatever you want? Let's come back in this area here, and I just want to soften this area. Then I'm going to pick up a blow dryer and just start to blow dry. My product of choice. I'm going to talk to you about my product of choice. I love now blending with Redken's diamond oil. Okay, diamond oil versus argan oil. Argan oil is more like a serum. Okay, so it doesn't have the ability to penetrate. Diamond oil contains more conditioning agents, so it has the ability to penetrate. My niece in San Diego loves the diamond oil, the extreme diamond oil, because she can go in and she can really, the one that's high intense, she can go in and she takes her coarse hair at night, makes it nice and soft. She absolutely fell in love with it. She said, this is now a girl's best friend, and I love that when she said that about diamond oil. All right, so I'm going to blend with my satinware and diamond oil. When we blend, the product most dominant goes into our hand first. The product least dominant goes second. Most dominant, my satinware 02. So I'm going to come through now and apply my satinware all the way through. Okay, so I'm just going to take a couple pumps of satinware. Now I'm going to take my diamond oil. Okay, and I'm going to work with my diamond oil. And all I'm doing, guys, very concentrated, maybe 1-2 drops. That's all I want in my diamond oil. Now I'm going to come through and I'm going to emulsify and apply my diamond oil. Let's take out the clip on top. Let's come through. Work from back to front, even in the crown area. Now when I come through and dry, see how much length I have up in that back crown area? And now look at her existing fringe in terms of what she has, in terms of what you see there. And now look at how you can just start to see. What I love about this, by blow drying as you go, you can start to see where you want to start to adjust your length, and you can just start to help to kind of analyze and kind of take a moment and reflect what you've done, reflect on what you've done, and think about where you're going to go. Now remember, short hair, 4 different identities to it. Down, forward, back, and up. There's 4 different identities to it. So see how she can move this forward, swing it around? But I really believe that you're starting to see this whole kind of Charlize Theron kind of influence that comes to it. Let's pick up a Sanvia blow dryer. I really want to thank you, my salon retail program friends, for your support on the Sanvia tools. You know you now have a hairdresser making tools for the right reason. And I love my Sanvia blow dryer only because of the lightweight of it. I'm going to take my paddle brush. Now I'm just simply going to wrap dry this. I think wrap drying is probably one of the easiest ways that a client can really go in and manage their drying, okay? I don't recommend we go in and blast dry so much anymore. When you blast dry, I want you to remember, when you just blast dry like this, what you're creating is you're creating a lot more flyaways and frizz. What we've discovered is by wrap drying it, we have a lot more control in terms of what we're doing. Now look how I can come back and slice and just wrap dry. Okay, watch me slice again, slice and come back. Slice and come back. Now let the dryer stop the brush. So slow down to speed up. We've got to understand that we have to slow down to speed up. Okay, look how I'm just reflecting, thinking about, look at the texture, where do I want to take it? What do I want to do with it? That's what's so cool about blow drying as you go. Working, the idea is wrapping around horizontally. I'm not wrapping the hair up across the top of the head. We were talking about turning the nozzle on a diagonal so you can maneuver your hand around things a lot easier. Not keeping the nozzle on a vertical, parallel with the handle. Okay, watch. Wrap, now slice and back. Slice and back. Sam, what if my clients want volume? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to come in and wrap dry. Teach them to wrap dry. Then I want you to come back in and teach them how to pick up a round brush and your sleeker. Teach them how to do that, how to use the sleeker with a round brush. They're going to have a lot more success doing that than going in and trying to blow dry everything with a round brush. Now look at how I can go just start to see where do I want to take this, where do I want to do, what I want to do. This is what I love and talking about blow drying as you go, where you can just start to see where you want to take things. All right, so you start to see, God, it's be so cool, start to leave it really heavy or take it lighter. I really just love moving it around and seeing where I want to take this. Now, based upon the previous haircut she's had, most of her length is back in this crown area. Look at the existing fringe that she had. So all I want to do is just work with that. That's all I want to do. It's just, sometimes they come in with an existing haircut or with the existing length, and we just have to learn how to work with it, basically. Work with what it is that they have. All right, so I've got that dry. Now I'm going to come through and I'm going to pick up the sleeker and my round brush. And this is where I'm asking you to really teach the clients how to work with this and what they can do with that. So the sleeker, let's turn that on. This is what I mean. It's a lot easier for them to do this, going in and doing this. They can pick up a section, and rather than going in and blow drying the section when they want volume, teach them how to work with your sleeker and your round brush together. Okay, round brush, working with a boar bristle round brush. Remember, a boar bristle is meant for any hair that's medium to coarse. Okay. Thermal brushes are meant for hair, any hair that's kind of coarse, boar bristle, medium to coarse. Thermal is meant medium to fine. Why? Because it conducts more heat. So think about, do you want more heat? Then I would pick up a thermal brush. Why? Fine hair needs that more heat. Remember, we talked about how heat can be your best friend. So I'm just coming through. I just want to give this some bevel. Everything that we flat iron now is for bevel, for movement. Don't want to just flat iron for straight hair. I want to flat iron to give it more movement. We're also going in, when we flat iron for a little bit more polish. So all you want to do now is just focus maybe on flat iron just the top surface of your haircuts, not getting in below like we used to with every single section and working our way up and flat iron everything. Those days are gone, guys. It's about using your flat iron now just for the sake of using it as a tool to create polish, to create bevel, or to create movement. Okay, I know I'm going to be taking that all off, so I'm just going in and flat iron just in the surface where I know I'm going to have some length. Now that's where you can have all of your overlap, guys, in terms of that sitting, all of that underneath, sitting exactly where I want it, but now I can work with my overlap in different areas. Ooh, I just saw something here. Look at that. Look at this. Love that. Let's work with it. Okay, so let's go through. We're going to come back through. We're going to pick up our long blade, the dry cutting blade, our 7-inch. We're going to our comb. And let's see where we got here. Okay, start moving around before you start cutting. Don't just start cutting things. I know I want to bypass that fringe for now. Let's just bypass that. Let's go in this back area and just start to see how the back area is starting to sit. So look and see where that hair wants to go, where it wants to sit on its own. Okay, so now let's separate front to back. So I separate high point of the head. This hair I know collapses in the front. Okay, let's come to the opposite side. Separate front to back. There we go there. Now let's start in the back area here. In this back area here, this is where I want to add some length into this. So I know I want to leave some length into that. That's going to sit right over that. So I get this little shape that kind of does that. This kind of is exposed. It's almost like you get this little line of hair that sits there. So let's go through first, and let's just knock off length. I'm going to keep my length right down to the baseline where I have that. So you can see how you can just fill in this back with this whole crown area, just overlapping that. Okay, once I got that, when I got my length off from front to back, then we're going to start to graduate it. And what I want to do is I want to create a little bit more kind of graduation that sits that whole idea of tipping a undercut over. So I want my top length there shorter, so I get a little bit more pop there. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to come through, and I'm going to come through and release that top crown area. So watch what I'm going to do. Look and see where it's at, where it wants to go. Okay, now that's the cowlick. This is how it moves around. Okay, so let's work with that. So I'm going to work with that callet. I'm going to come through, and I want this to have a nice sense of aggressiveness to us. Take your index finger and your middle finger, overlap them. Bring the blade in, start to tip, short to long, short to long. So now all I do is get a nice pace going. Remember, we're talking about turning these things over. So if there's a sense of freshness that we're introducing you to, it's the rectangles. And the idea of taking things where they pop up in the crown, where it's a little bit more shorter, and it's still got that length that I want to have in the back area. So what are we doing? This is reaching back to a technique. I'm just accelerating. So I accelerate up. Look how the middle finger overlaps the index finger. The shear, the guiding blade sits on my index finger. Now use just the tip of the shear and you just open and close. So it's almost scissor over comb like. Fast scissor, slow hand. And you just keep your pace going. So now what am I doing here? That's allowing me to cut a very, very steep angle where I get this crown to have a little bit more pop to it, and I'm getting that back to just sit. So now look at the side profile of what that's creating. So you get your little pop, you get your sit. Now look how that has character to it. See the character that has to it? It's really cool in terms of going in and doing that. Okay, I want to go through, and you just work around the calic area. Work this way. Why, Sam? Because you're taking that crown so extremely short so it has the ability to pop up. We'll work from short to long. Keep your steady pace going. Look at fast scissor, slow hand, working from crown to short. Just accelerate up. That's all you want to do. Accelerate up. Okay? Now see, I get this kind of rectangle sheet of hair that sits in that back area back there, and I'm loving that. Now just spin around. Work towards the front. So I work from that calic, taking everything from that calic. After I do this, anything that overlaps and doesn't sit in, I'll go in and take it off, guys. This is what I love about dry cutting now. You can just start to visually see the end result and what it is that you want to create. Okay, working right through. Now my next section, coming through, coming all the way, look where I'm at, all the way back to that crown area. That's my starting point. Coming through, once again, guiding blade sits on that. And now I work and I tip. If I go in and I use the complete shaft of the shear and close, I'm going to get too much of a hard line. By using just the tip of the shear, you're getting a very soft edge, but it allows you to really maintain a long degree of length into the outer perimeters of the haircut. And now look at the crown. See how that crown just pops? That's the idea of what we're talking about and how it just moves around. Okay, nice little rough texture to it. Okay, and just continue working around. So it's almost like I'm working little pie shape sections, pizzas type slices working around, pie shape slices working around. You'll see your starting point, your guide at that crown area, and now just relax and accelerate up and maintain your degree of length. And then once I've got this, then I can really start to personalize the haircut. Okay, really like where that's going. Obviously, I want to start to work that length down, work your way around, once again picking my section up, coming back to the crown. Now, does it have to be this short? No, guys, remember, everything I'm doing, you just adjust the length. So I could do this with really long, maybe 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, start at the crown and accelerate up. Think about it doing this maybe on somebody that has really, really long hair, and they want something to pop in the crown or have a little bit more lift and volume in the crown. So you can go in and you can do that. Okay, working my way to this. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to start to take my length here. I want some of that to stay there. But watch, when I want to take length, I'll accelerate and then I'll start to decelerate. So watch what I mean here. So I go up, I start to accelerate. Okay, now I'm getting the length that I know I want to take, and I want to start to decelerate. So now I'm working down, and now working down, looking where I'm seeing where my length's at. And I keep working, opening, closing, and moving. So now I'm taking off a little bit more length in certain areas in terms of what I see. Okay, really, really important, guys, in terms of even when you're doing this type of technique, stay in control in terms of what you're doing. Working my way around. Okay, look, see where hair doesn't belong? Just take it away. Hair that doesn't belong, just take it away. Now just slightly back cut that, just to give it a nice soft edge to it. I like that. This here, I'm going to lose that. Look how I just moved things around. Okay, so I love that. Love this piece. This needs to go. Don't go in with your 7-inch. I'm going to suggest we go in with our blender. Watch. Take your blender out. Allows you to keep it nice and soft. Let's lose this right here, this length. So come through. I want that to overlap there. So I'm going to come through, blunt blade on the bottom, so I keep the hardness underneath. And now just close and backstroke, close and backstroke, close and backstroke. This will allow me to keep some softness right over that ear, but gives me that little piece that I like there. Okay, this guy's not fitting in. Look how it just doesn't fit in. Pick it up, guys. Now it's all visual. So you got to use your eyes here, guys. Loving that, okay. That, good. Okay, now let's go to the back. Let's see what we got in the back. This is that sheet of rectangle that I have right back there. Seeing how that's working and how that's going to sit. Okay, I'm going to just soften it out just a little bit. How? Take your blunt blade, weave your blunt blade or your blending shear through, and now close and backstroke. And I'm going to bring the length up just a little bit. See where I took that, and I didn't weave that. Now watch how this is going to sit. This is going to sit softer and conform more to the shape of her head. okay, in this back. But remember, I want length back there, so it's got a sense of character to it. Now I'm going to come through. My product of choice is just going to be my rough paste. So I'm just taking a small amount of rough paste. I love my rough paste 12s. Give me a little bit more kind of a rough texture to it and kind of a pasty texture to it. And all I want to do is just massage that in. Look at how she can just really work the texture in different types of ways. But it's real simple, guys. What I love is these rectangles. Watch the rectangle swing. Watch me swing all this hair this opposite direction. Okay? And let's see what happens. When you swing this hair this opposite direction, what it is that you're going to get. Take this piece. Let's tuck that behind the ear. And you generally just get a nice sense of personality in terms of that, in terms of what she's had. But look how it just kind of has a sense that it tilts. But really, just really cool personality for this. I really want to thank Cassandra for the courage of letting us go through and do something a little bit different. Let's recap. What we did is we took a rectangle section, guys. That's all we worked with. If there's anything I want you to get out of this, it's the rectangle in terms of making your crowns pop. Taking it and just tipping your undercuts and taking them and just tipping them out upside down. We started in the front. If there's anything else I want you to get out of this, start these haircuts in the front. Start to make them happen for you in the front area in terms of what you're doing. And the idea behind that is now when you start in the front, you start standing in the front, you now start to go through and you start to get this hair to have a direction so that it moves back and away from the face. And remember, short hair, 4 different directions, up, back, forward, and down, and you've got 4 different ways in which you can take this hair. So I give to you the beautiful Cassandra.